let me tell you, Rick Roberts' School of Laughs, you're not going to find better laughs anywhere, okay? They're the best laughs. He's got a school. It's like a school of fish, but they're all giggling, okay? They're very, very, very beautiful laughs.
Welcome to the School of Laughs podcast, brought to you by schooloflaughs.com. Whether you're an aspiring comedian, a part-time pro, or a speaker who wants to become funnier, this is the podcast for you. We'll break down tools, tips, and techniques to help you get bigger, better, and more bookable. And now, here's the show.
Welcome to the School of Laughs podcast. Rick Roberts here. I'd like to thank our new sponsor, the Art of Bombing podcast. You'll hear a little bit more about that in the middle of the show. But Art of Bombing podcast, where they talk about your worst bombing experiences on stage. All kinds of great episodes already in the hopper. You can go over there and check out that podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that you get your podcast. Also would like to thank Brad Bear, our Patreon sponsor for this particular episode. I'd like to thank all 30 of you that are sponsoring the podcast through Patreon and making it happen. Got a fun episode today with comedian Ed Wiley. Ed's from down in South Georgia, and he has done all he can from where he is to get where he is today. Does that make sense? It will in a little bit. Ed has covered a lot of ground. In fact, he was covering 2.5-hour drives from South Georgia into Atlanta and, of course, back. So 5-hour drives to do 7 to 10 minutes like a lot of us do when we first start, but did that for a while and still goes up there from time to time. But South Georgia, he's got a goat farm. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about his days where he would do Elvis impersonations, where he had had a jumpsuit and everything almost, so pretty cool. Talk about his 3 different clips that have gone viral. He's had a lot of success, puts out a lot of things, and a few of those things hit pretty big. We'll talk about that. And just overall talking about how to manage family and comedy when you start a little bit later in life. Ed's a great impressionist, and you can hear a few of those impressions pop here and there as you did in the opening. We'll get into that in just 1 minute. I'm going to take less than 30 seconds to tell you about some upcoming dates, so start the timer now. June 24th, that's a Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. There'll be the Business of Comedy class here in Nashville. The cost is $99. You're going to learn everything you need to know about going full-time, how to get there, what you need when you get there. July 12th, a graduation show, Third Coast Comedy Club here in Nashville, where some of our recent students take the stage. And the writing class coming up July 9th, 16th, and 23rd here in Nashville as well. All that information is in the show notes and on schooloflaughs.com. Now, let's kick it in to the interview with Ed Wiley. Well, I am here with Ed Wiley. How's it going, sir?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Driving all the way up from Georgia to Nashville.
Deep South Georgia, that's right.
And how was traffic? He had to roll through Bonnaroo.
They were just getting warmed up.
Yeah.
I saw him looped around. I just, I passed by him like I was in the HOV lane or something. But they were swerving, so they were already prepped.
What was it like to not be in the HOV lane? Because you have a pretty good sized family.
I do. I'm always in the HOV lane. I mean, it was degrading. I felt discriminated against.
Did you feel like just bringing a goat or something to,
I did.
Cast a shadow on that?
In 1994, I saw a goat in a passenger seat in Metro Atlanta. But that's another.
You did?
I did, yeah. I was young. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was.
Did that influence you into the world of goats?
Nope. That was my wife that did that. So.
Oh, really? So
yes.
she was amongst the goats first.
This was all her. I mean, I talk about this in my act, but it's like we do have goats. Why? 2 words. My wife.
Yeah.
She wanted to milk goats. We've had as many as 60.
I just can't even fathom having 60 of anything.
Well,
If I had 60 wasps, I'd probably move. You got 60 goats.
Yeah, we were like the Solomon of goats or something. I don't know. Is that?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get to the comedy stuff in a second, but I'm curious, where and how did you meet your wife? Because you guys, y'all seem like high school sweethearts, but that's not true.
No, we met when we, so I had just graduated from college and she was still in college, and we met at a little church in near downtown Atlanta. Her roommate brought her to church. And I was like, I think you're an attractive sister in Christ, and I'd like to continue interacting with you. And she was like, get away from me. But eventually she acquiesced. And am I allowed to say that? Acquiesced?
Yeah, I just want to ask you to spell it.
Okay. Well, I can't. I will fail so hard. Yeah, so it was pretty quick. We met. We dated for 6 months, got engaged, and then got married 6 months after that.
There you go.
And then 6 weeks after that, found out we were expecting child number 1, and we didn't stop for like 100 years.
And now you have a total of
6 kids.
How about that? So for every 10 goats, you have a child.
There is a ratio.
10-1. Got to keep it real.
Yes.
That's hilarious. And so at that time, she didn't know you were going to even get into comedy at all, right?
It wasn't even on my radar. I knew people did it, but I didn't. I used to sing Elvis like for fun. That was a thing I did. And it was, I knew I needed to stop doing that when I entered a contest. I didn't like dye my hair or anything, but I entered a contest and I placed second to a guy who'd like been in movies, and I was like, I'm getting way too close to this fire.
Yeah.
So I got out. It was just it was funny, right?
Did you have a jumpsuit or anything?
I had a pleather suit that Annie bought me at Goodwill. It had an American flag on the back. So my big thing was at the end of American Trilogy, the bum bum bum. Yeah. I would turn around and reveal the American flag on the back of the pleather suit.
Was there a cape involved or no?
No cape.
Okay. So you really had to. You could not turn around in that audience.
No, I was very rigid. It was kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have ruined the closer.
It was so bad.
I assume we're being like a serious Elvis. You weren't cracking jokes between songs, or were you finding some humor?
I thought the whole thing was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been an Elvis fan a long time, but doing that was just to make people laugh. I just never, at that point in time, I never thought, oh, maybe it still wasn't on my radar.
Right. At the time, were you a computer programmer? Pretty much?
Yeah. I was I've worked in kind of the software business for since I got out of college, and I did. That's kind of like what I've done to put food on my family.
Yeah, not on the table, just put on the family.
Actual George W. Bush quote: "Put food on my family." So yeah, that's what I've done, and so that's comedy is a little different when it comes. It's very subjective. It's like entrepreneurship with a lot of subjectivity, more than anything in the software business.
A whole lot, and changes from night to night.
Oh yeah.
Now, I remember speaking to you on New Year's Day.
I think it was 2014, 2015.
That's what I was trying to figure out. It's either 14 or 15.
I think it was 15.
Yeah,
because I started in 14.
Okay.
I was like, I need some structure to this.
Yes. And was I doing the podcast that time, or had you just found like the website?
I found the podcast. And I was like, this is useful. It really helped me to kind of put some. And then I signed up for your class, and I took your online class.
Right. I'm
not getting paid for this, y'all. The online class is very good. Are you still offering the online class?
I am, but I didn't realize that I had the podcast going in 2000, because it must have been June of 2014 when I started this.
Okay, that must sounds right.
I didn't realize it was that long ago, and I started it kind of when the online course came out, so I could let people know about it. But also, if they didn't want to take the online class, they get a lot of information for nothing.
Okay.
But I remember, this is how much of a nerd I am. So January 1st, nothing's going on, So I go to my office and I'm just like sorting out my tax documents for the year.
Yeah.
And I'm literally sitting there going, man, somebody call or do something. I can't sit here. And then the phone rings. You're like, you got a minute? I'm like, I got all the time you need. And I think we talked for like an hour almost.
Yeah, we talked for a while.
40 minutes at least.
Yeah, it was super helpful.
Well, I thought that, after talking to you, I'm like, this is a guy that's serious about trying to figure this out and trying to, learn a few things not to do, but also you wanted to get that material tight and figure it out.
Yeah.
I want to say we even talked over a few jokes or something real quick just to kind of.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did.
And then the next thing I know, was it 6 months later that you were at one of the CCA conferences, or was it a year?
It was. Let's see. Let me see if I can piece this together. I went to the CCA. I've been to 3 CCAs. So I went in 2015. One of my kids was really sick. I was like I was on a hiatus from comedy because I couldn't go anywhere. So I was there, but I was like a fly on a wall. Right. I was just kind of watching, observing, soaking in. And
did you have your family with you?
My family was with me.
So I think that was 15.
We were just looming. Yeah, in 15. We were all there together, including the sick daughter, who was kind of like, she was on the cusp of like figuring out what was wrong with her. We were running back and forth from South Georgia to Atlanta, so that's kind of a scary time, you know. Yeah, and then when she was well, I kind of jumped back into it, and I want to say the first thing I did was Derek Tennant had a show, like a TV clean contest,
Like bleep free comedy.
yeah, in Smyrna, Georgia. And I had done it before. I'd not won it, but I wrote 3 new. It's a tight 3, and I had a good night, a really good night. After not having been on stage, I'd been practicing at home. Like, we started, because I couldn't go anywhere because my kid was so sick.
Yeah.
We started doing family open mics. I know that sounds crazy.
I remember seeing some. You would post a little footage here and there.
Yeah, I mean, when you have, I guess you just procreate your own open mic audience. I guess that's an option for there aren't a ton of options in South Georgia for audiences. So some of our kids all have different personalities, and they would critique my work, but they would do things too. They would like do magic. Or no goats came in the house. We didn't allow that. This is America.
We don't want magic and goats in the same place.
Yeah, that's right.
We got to draw a line somewhere.
That's right.
That's almost like devil worship going on there.
Right.
Something's going to go wrong.
You guys are going to bring in some Harry Potter. We're not going to have that. Yeah. So and I did well. I think I came in second.
In the family open mic.
No, yes, I was crushing. The baby won. You can't compete with a baby.
No, they're gonna win every time.
Yeah, these babies. No, but that was kind of that was when I felt like I was figuring it out. Like, okay, this is not okay. Felt like I was. There's like the first you have breakthroughs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, this is. And then it wasn't too long after that. I was at a show in Carrollton, Georgia, in 2015. It was a showcase thing, but a lot of guys I knew from the Atlanta comedy scene were there, and I actually, like, I don't know, what do you call it, killed?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I've heard about it.
Yeah. It's a rare thing. It's like it's like Bigfoot. So, and that does not happen every time. But when you're struggling at first, and then you kind of see that breakthrough, you kind of, I think I heard some podcast, it may have been Nate Bargatze or somebody on a podcast one time saying you always want to get back to like those times when you did really well. And so that was kind of like one of my first kind of anchors, like, okay, that worked.
Yeah.
And then you have some that don't scattered in a lot that don't work in there, and then you kind of want to try to get back to that.
But at least you know what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, that was huge. That was a huge turn for me. And I think most of that's a mental game, A
lot of it is. I think, the preparation certainly is, and then the performance is, but then also how you process and evaluate afterwards can get skewed. Like, if you haven't done well in a long time, you do pretty good. Sometimes you think that's great.
Yeah.
But when you struggle a little bit and you crush, you're like, oh, okay, there's a big gap between day to day and big success.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you do try to recreate that and focus on the things that work. And typically it's hard to live up to those big ones immediately.
Yeah.
But you start getting more and more big ones closer together.
Yeah.
To where you're more consistent and people start noticing that and then offering you other opportunities and paid gigs and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right.
That come out of that. So what were some of the things that once you kind of got the groove going? And I want to insert in here somewhere too that you had a couple of viral Facebook type things in the process.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where they happened, but was the first one the mixtape, or was there one before that?
So the Leonard Skinner tape
yes.
my daughter, child number 3, found from that thing every year. So that was like May of 2016, and I had 300 followers on my Facebook page at the time. Yeah. I didn't have any, and she came up and made some sarcastic comment like, "Hey, look, Dad, is this from the Civil War?" I was like, "That's funny. I'm gonna put that on my page." And Facebook's algorithm was a lot different then, so pages didn't get the restrictions that they have now.
Right.
And the right people saw it. I think the Van Zant band shared it, and it just took off. And I actually booked a show in North Dakota.
Yeah.
And a mini tour from somebody. You can't control this. Like, right. That's what I'm grateful that starting as late as I did in life, And in the life situation that I'm in, I'm grateful that I've been able to do anything. But I booked like an anchor show, that was a good, a good dollar number, and then was able to book some smaller shows there and back. And we took the whole family, all 8 of us, in a Honda Odyssey.
And what an odyssey it was.
Oh yeah, I drove into Three Rivers by myself. I put the family out. No, it was tough, but it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Get to see the country.
Yeah.
Get to hang with the family. Get to do comedy. That's right. 3 of the best things there are.
Yeah, totally.
That's excellent. And that one went viral. And then did that Trump one go viral?
The Trump one. So I had one that I did when April the giraffe was pregnant.
Yeah, that's it.
And I put just Trump hands in front of the giraffe and said that was going to be Trump's Secretary of Labor because she was in labor, and somehow the zoo saw that and they shared it, and it went kind of viral is weird though now. Like in 2008, if you had 1 million views on something, you'd be on the Today Show. Mm-hmm. Now you'll book some work, but it's not the drastic transformative thing, because you're competing with, like, there's a guy. A guy freaking out from getting his armpits waxed that has 150 million views on Facebook.
Right.
So that's what you're competing with.
Yeah, it's never apples to apples. It's
no.
just it's like what to what?
Right.
To
yeah. So a rubber chicken clucking the words to Justin Bieber's Despacito or what? I mean, you can't. So you can't look at it like that. I'm grateful, that. And then I had a bit at a show I was doing with Anita Renfro. That was kind of, I don't know, when I work churches, it's usually my closer. It's called if Trump were on staff at your church.
Right.
And that one went, I guess, the most viral or whatever. I think it topped out at about 6 million views.
I want to thank all of you fake news people, all of you, even you in the cheap seats. I want to thank all of you people for coming out to this committee meeting. It's going to be, quite frankly, probably the best committee meeting of all the committee meetings that you've ever been to. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal. And isn't this a beautiful facility to have a committee meeting in? Isn't it a beautiful facility? It's a beautiful facility. And I know you've been asking me, ma'am, Donald, when did you grow the beard? I grew it on the way here, okay? I have the best follicles. They're just amazing follicles. They're unbelievable follicles. Unbelievable. And I'm very honored that all of you, even you who's not laughing over there, have chosen me to be your youth pastor. I'm going to be, quite frankly, the best youth pastor. I know more about youth than youth know about youth. I know more about youth than anybody. The youth come to me, they ask me this, I tell them that, and they're happy. They're happy. The youth are happy. But there is something going on with our youth. There's something very, very horrible going on. They are holding hands. They're hugging, not from the side. My people are looking into that. We're going to put a stop to that. We're going to build a wall around the boys. We're going to build a wall around the girls. We're going to make the Methodists pay for it. They're going to pay for all of it. And we are going to make lock-ins great again. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Life Church. You guys have been awesome.
That was a big change for me, because then I was suddenly booking like my own, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I wish I could tell people, well, this is what you do to get the with your strategy to make sure you can be successful in this world.
Right.
To defeat the comedy giant. But there's no, like, my kid found a tape in a creek.
Yeah.
I did some on a whim. I put Trump hands in front of a thing.
Right.
And then the video from the Trump, if Trump were on staff at your church, they were like testing their streaming video at this church. It was in Austin. It was Randy Phillips, Phillips, Craig and Dean.
Okay.
His sister. Yeah. And that church is like built for performances. So the sound was amazing. Like, you could hear the audience perfectly, mm-hmm. Which some video you get, you can only hear you.
Yeah.
And you can be doing really well, but there's no. Okay, so it was just terrible. You're like, oh, this could have been great, but it was just like the perfect kind of storm of, I had that bit right where I wanted it, and it was a fantastic crowd in a fantastic venue with really good video and really good audio, and Facebook had not made some of their more drastic changes yet, and there had not been years now of every late night talk show host and SNL, ripping Trump,
Right.
Which, when you do things in a mean-spirited way, it's got a shelf life. So I don't know. I don't like to do that with my comedy. So I'm going to pick on Hillary, Bernie, Trump, Bush, Obama, everybody. Everybody gets a joke. And, but, so that's kind of a lot of things out of my control. I wish,
Well, true. However, what is in your control, and people should take away from all that, is those aren't the only three things you ever post. You post regularly and you post often, and so it increases the chances of things being picked up.
That's true.
They're high quality all the time, so you're in a habit of putting out good content, and that's something that, if they only take one thing from this podcast episode, is you just can't plan 6 months to do this one thing and put all your money and ideas behind it and see if you can push it to be viral.
Yeah.
You just have to be constantly in the stream of what's going on. And so you were with the giraffe thing, you were in tune with the big story of the day, and you did something timely. You didn't wait till 6 months later and try to wedge it back in.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Trump, and that was the keeping the youth apart from each other with the wall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything was in time and step. The Civil War tape in the creek, that just happened to hit at the right time for whatever reason, and the band shared it. But you're constantly noticing things that, okay, I probably can't just go up in my act and go, my daughter found a Civil War tape, or a tape and called it from the Civil War.
Right.
Now you maybe can, because you found the other funny things to it. But some things work on video, some things work as a quick post.
That's right.
And then sometimes they really work.
Yeah, and some things you tweet that for your following, they do really well, but then the concept just does not transfer to the stage.
Right.
Like, you've got to start okay, well, there's a premise there, but you got to go back to square one, because it doesn't.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
But it is important, though, to keep putting that stuff out. And when it does hit, from the time you had your 300 Facebook fans and the first thing hit, how did that expand, roughly numbers-wise?
I want to say, with the Skinnerd thing, because that was seen a lot. That was shared 60, 70,000 times. That was crazy. And there's two groups of people when you have something go viral.
Yeah.
There's two groups of people. There's the group of people that will tell you you're going to hell. That's in literal terms. They'll tell you it doesn't matter. You could post a picture of a kitten, and if enough people see that picture of the kitten, that'll be your first group.
Yeah.
It'll be you have erred against God for posting this kitten, and you are destined to eternal torment in hell. Okay, so, and the other group of people is the Illuminati people. They will say that you somehow, for having this viral kitten, are associated with the Illuminati. So that's just to let you know, that's what happens.
There's no winning
you
there
can't. You can't win.
And then you probably get, and I think you even told me, a scattering of ridiculous comedy offers that some you could somewhat entertain, and some you're like, I can't even engage in the conversation.
Can you come to Guam for $25?
Yeah.
It's I had somebody actually ask me to come to Madagascar.
Interesting.
Yes, and I don't know what I was doing. Maybe it was the goats. I don't know. It didn't work out.
No.
I guess you just have to, like you said, you make a great point. You have to keep putting stuff out there, because you really don't know.
Going to jump in here just for a second and give you a little update on our sponsor. We've got a new sponsor for the show. It's the Art of Bombing podcast. Here's a little information about them, and you can click through in the show notes to go right to it and subscribe to their podcast. I think you'll dig it.
Calling all comedians and fans of comedy. Join me, Dan Bublich Jr., every Tuesday for the Art of Bombing podcast, as I talk with comedians of all levels about their worst shows and what can be learned from them. Learning lessons not only to become better comedians, but better people. The Art of Bombing takes an in-depth look at bombing on stage to turn failure into success. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.
you have no chance of anything going viral if you're not putting stuff out there.
Right. And if you're putting out even small hits, a couple thousand views here, then you're also increasing the people that will share something when it is big, and it does help the ball get rolling.
That's right. That's exactly right.
18,000 people sharing something is, or a fragment of that as compared to a fragment of 300 or 3,000. It's a big difference. And the computers notice the shares and the likes and the whatnot.
That's right.
But like you say, Facebook's changed a lot of things. You can't even mention the word share in a post or tickets, or like there's phrasing like "come see me at," or link in the comments. All that stuff is being flagged now.
Yeah, they don't want that in people's feeds.
Yeah, even though they're constantly adding in more stuff.
Right.
And wrinkling in things. So it is a moving target. And it's also just worth noting real quick, all those were Facebook posts, right? You didn't have a YouTube video that you linked from Facebook.
No, I think the Trump, the last one, the Trump Youth Pastor one, I think it got like 100,000 views on YouTube. And I don't really know how that happened, honestly.
So did you post them separately, one to YouTube,
I did
one on Facebook?
Yeah, I posted one on YouTube, one on Facebook. I think it was in like an article, like Pajama Media, and then a couple other like outlets wrote about it. And I think that may have driven traffic. They linked to the YouTube video. But that was a little crazy. Like you get a lot of people calling you.
Yeah.
So I
would think with that one though, a few more of the right people.
Totally.
I see this guy. He's a performer. He's in a
Yes.
church. We have a church. We need a performer.
Right.
So hopefully that's
that's right.
dialed it in a little bit.
Yeah. More so than a Leonard Skinner tape.
Right. Which come on now.
Yeah.
That's funny. So what else is going on in the world of Ed Wiley?
In the world of Ed Wiley.
Because I know you've got shows, but you got the farm, and it seems to me like the farm. It's goats, so I don't know exactly, but there's should be a certain amount of attention every day of things that have to get done, right?
Yeah, there is. Like we milked goats for a while, but that is we're not that Amish. Yeah. You can't leave the farm.
Right.
Like you've got to once it's biology at work.
Yeah, you start a cycle that needs to be met, and then
the goat is like milk me. It has to be, and that's what they say. It's actual. That's science, but it's there. We got out of that, and really we just breed them and sell them now. That's what we do.
I got you.
So it's a lower maintenance endeavor.
For you, sounds like the goat has a little bit better time.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to look at it. Goats are funny. They have different personalities, but we had this one goat that would scream like a man, like a grown man, and
pretty creepy, I bet.
Well, yeah, it was so creepy that our neighbor heard it and called my wife and was like, she thought she heard me outside being attacked.
Oh.
It's weird. The goat farmer comedy market is strong. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think something we haven't really talked about on the podcast before, maybe barely touched on though. What do you do when you live way out in the country? I mean, just tell people, even though you're in Georgia, how long it takes you to get into Atlanta.
Oh man. I mean, so when I really first started comedy, I would finish my day job, which remember goats is like side day job. Okay. Yeah. So I would finish my day job,
which
was
the
software. Yeah. I'd finish that. I would drive to Atlanta to the Landmark Diner, which is now the Punchline, but at the time it was Jerry Farber's side door. And they had an open mic that started at 9 p.m. And it was usually absolutely horrible. And it's kind of like, I don't know, like I haven't served in the military, but the bond people say they have when they've served in conflict.
Right.
It's a similar, like some of those shows were so terrible. And it was a 3-hour drive up. And so you do your time, and if you won the night, whatever that meant, you might get your name on the sign and could do more time next week.
Yeah, that's the punishment is you got to come back.
Yes, you have to drive back.
The prize is punishment.
I would do it though. I would once a week. It would 3 hours up. I'd usually spend time like writing on the way up, and then do your 5 to 7 minutes depending on how many people showed up for the mic that night, and then I'd drive home, listen to it. Cry, my tear-stained,
it's brutal.
Tear-stained truck, yeah.
3 hours back when it didn't go well is brutal.
And it's open mic audiences. That's the thing is a lot of times you don't like. There's comedians, and it's like 80% comedians. Comedians laugh at different things, like when you're not doing well.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons.
And Jerry Farber was great. Like he's 80, I think now, and he said, Ed, you need to put everything you've got into it. You know, he sounded like a slower, lower Trump, actually, is the way he talks. But Jerry was like, he encouraged me to use the guitar. He encouraged me to do impressions because, you know, the comedy purists, they're like, oh, impressions are hacky. And then you find out, well, you don't do, I mean, everybody's doing an impression of themselves the time the joke worked. That's my take on that.
That's great. Yeah, that's true.
Everybody is, you know, you do it and you get it working like you want it and it's your voice, but is it real? You're hiding all the parts of your personality that aren't interesting.
Right.
So you're performing. And so I've been doing, I started comedy in my late 30s, but I've been doing impressions my whole life, like to get out of trouble. Yeah, so I would do impressions of my teachers, and they would leave the room. I would get up and do an impression of them, and then they would come back in, and I would get sent to the office.
Yeah.
That was the cycle.
It's funny, like you were like grade school.
Yeah.
That's when my first impression was Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter.
In third grade.
Let's hear it.
I'm just a peanut farmer from Georgia, and I'm working so hard for this country. I can't wait to take over the White House. And I don't know. It's been about 20 years since I've heard Jimmy Carter.
That's great.
Not bad. So I'm sure, like, when you were young, was it the Saturday Night Live impressionists like Dana Carvey that you looked to?
Dana Carvey. I would go to school. I went to public school K through 5. I'd tell this joke in my act, but I got beaten up a lot, so my mom put me in private Christian school, and I learned a lot in Christian school. I learned that it hurts just as bad to get punched by a Christian. So, but in Christian school, I think it was in like 10th grade, you have Bible class, and you have to memorize a lot of scripture. So I think it was Romans 8 or something, and I came to school. And it was my turn. I recited Romans 8 as Dana Carvey doing George Bush Sr. And
you got it in you right now?
No, I don't have that in me. Don't have the George Bush Sr. But that was, it was well received. The teacher was in tears, kind of like with your Jimmy Carter, right?
Sure, yeah.
So it was, that was fun. But it's still, it did not register to me that was a viable
occupation, pursuit.
It wasn't even a consideration.
Yeah, I'm curious, because even after I did comedy the first couple of times, I didn't realize it was a possibility. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never, even though I was the guy that picked up our comics for the college, I would drive to the Pittsburgh International Airport and bring them back down to West Virginia.
Okay.
I knew, obviously, I saw him write some huge checks to some of those guys, but it never looked. I just thought those people existed. I didn't know you could learn how to do it, especially in West Virginia or Kentucky or Ohio, where I was kind of around. So yeah, it's just a bizarre thing, isn't it? When you're a kid, there's no. I mean, kids today, obviously, are completely different because they can search anything on YouTube or the internet and go. In fact, a lot of kids, you see these kids doing Trump impressions, and they're trying to get work out of it.
Totally.
Their parents are trying to get work for them out of it.
Yep.
So it has changed a lot. When you were going back and forth from way out in the middle of nowhere, Georgia to Atlanta, when was the first time? Was it the bleep free night where you're like, there might be a few dollars in this down the road somewhere? Or was it?
I think.
Would it have still been fun if there weren't?
I think, so I guess one thing I kind of left out, so I met at Kay Dodd and Lisa Mills, two of my very good friends and mentors to me.
They're the
in
best.
Comedy. They're awesome. They were at that show, that Derek Tennant show, that Bleep Free show. And they were like, oh, okay. He did well,
So they had seen you before.
They had seen me at CCA, just like we know his face, but they'd never seen me perform. And so Kay asked me to do a fundraiser show the following March, and unbeknownst to me at the time, and that fundraiser show was in Canton, Georgia. I did 20 minutes, but I had a strong night, and Anita Renfro was in the audience, and then I didn't know Anita. Then she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, do you want to come feature for me sometime?" And
you did the string of compassion dates with her?
I did some compassion dates and some Prison Fellowship International dates with her. So it was, and I think Anita, another mentor, just awesome human being. I think a series of, taking your class, connecting with you, meeting Kay and Lisa, Kay putting me on that show, and then getting on Anita's, featuring for Anita, I learned a lot from people who were actually doing it, and saw that there was a viable kind of
progression,
trajectory,
yeah,
if you will. So I think it looks different for everybody. I'm not 20 years old, single, and can do 300 dates, a year.
Right.
That's not happening.
Right.
I'm the sole breadwinner in my family. So I've got to, that mark I've got to hit, you know what I'm saying? Like I've got
you got to be strategic,
very much
opportunistic. But then you do some things like this, which is an opportunity coming up to town and
that's right.
making the drive.
Yeah, that's right. Just working it. And this is mainly because my wife kicked me out of the house. This is,
and let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's not the first time and it won't be the last.
No, it won't. She was like, she's recovered. She's been under the weather. She's feeling a little better, clearly, because she was like,
you got to get out of here.
Yeah, you got to get out of here. Why don't you go up and hang out with Dusty and Rick?
Yeah, she knows we're bad company.
Yes.
She's like, that actually makes me feel extremely safe. Like, she's like, he can't get any trouble up there with those guys.
They're not going to lead him astray.
Oh, man. They might go to a bookstore or something afterwards and knock over the periodical rack.
Don't get 2 shots in your espresso.
There you go. Cool, man. Ed, I'm glad we got to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Rick.
Hope you enjoyed the episode today. Always good to catch up with friends on the road or when they're on the road in my town, Nashville, Tennessee. Ed's a good guy. Check out his clips. I've linked to a few of his things in the show notes, so you can go check out the video that goes along with some of the audio you heard in the podcast and some other stuff as well. Don't forget to check out the Art of Bombing podcast. You can do that by searching simply that in the iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcast information, and subscribe to that podcast. Give it a listen, see what you think. Don't forget, again, the Business of Comedy class coming up June 24th. It's right around the corner from 1 to 4 p.m. here in Nashville. If you're interested in that, shoot me an email, schooloflaughs@gmail.com. Put business class in the subject line. I'll make sure to get back to you. And don't forget, also, if you'd like to catch me warming up for the HUCKABEE show, you can do that on the date of release here, June 15th. Also on June 19th and July 13th. All that information as well is in the show notes at schooloflaughs.com. All right, have a great summer. I'm out. Stay safe and stay funny.
Thanks for listening to the School of Laughs podcast. If you'd like to hear more School of Laughs podcasts, you can find them on iTunes and Stitcher.com. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. For information on upcoming live and online classes, visit schooloflaughs.com. Until next time, stay tuned, stay focused, and stay funny.